that you should be able to pull anybody up by several one of these 15 fields that are in there. Now, whether the computer continues to perform in that manner, I don't know. But for instance, a person is 56 years old when they die. Well, you're supposed to be able to press onto that age 57 and get to all the hundreds show up. But hardly anybody does the age research, except young women. And then the other cases that I have in there, to do the research on, maybe on an address, that would be a geography of the city, or maybe on their employment. You should be able to type in Whirlpool, and maybe hundreds and hundreds should appear on the screen. You'd have to ferret out the one you were searching for. Or if you typed in there the Loyal Order of the Moose, which doesn't have big membership today, but that should be readily attainable and found easy on. I oftentimes claim I got a good history on veterans, but that becomes awful big. My biggest history on the veterans was all the veterans were killed in action or killed or died during wartime. That was my main forte there. But I do have other studies on veterans, which just shows that they were in the military at a certain time, or that they served in the Marines or the Army, or that they were assigned to Camp Shelby, or that they went to the South Pacific, or they went to the North Atlantic. Some of those variables. But my source and recourse to that was the Evansville paper again, which I resort to, because I couldn't go to the various military clubs in town and sit in their building for weeks and weeks on end while I transcribed their work into my system. So I never did go and ask at the veterans offices or at the government office for accessibility, even though sometimes you could achieve that. In a smaller county than ours, I'm sure if somebody pursued this work, they could get an entry to sit there in the county courthouse and transcribe a lot of the different things that they account for. People often say you can go to the recorder's office to see if somebody was in the military, but that doesn't really stand up, because it was just on their own system to go down there and say to the recorder, put me in there. I was in the Army for 3 years from 73 to 76 or something, and that's not always exacting, because only 1 out of 10 people ever went down there, and it wasn't mandatory at all. And the records kept by the Army, they were not switched to us or to the common man, so you couldn't keep that record exact, except what would appear in the paper I caught during the days of the war, why the mothers would put in the paper where their son was transferred from one camp in the United States to another. Not that he was in the battle lines, because that was prohibited from the paper, but he was in someplace in the States that was in there, so I would catch that. So my advance in military records is not any better than it appeared in the paper, because I never did go to the veterans office or any place that I couldn't camp in very readily to get all that, which would today be very interesting to the ancestors. Because my work is for ancestors, it would be awful nice to have had that. So what I have is not entire nor complete.
Mother, have you seen tenacity and Charles in this work? Has he stayed with his work on genealogy, or has he just flittered around and not done the work?
Oh no, it's total tenacity and perseverance. All the years he has never deviated. If we went on vacation, he was absolutely positive to catch up when we came home. But it is a daily routine, and it's part of his life, and it has been all the way through, every day, and it's absolute.
In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when this information was not recognized as valuable to people, did a lot of your friends or other associates realize the value of this ancestry search?
No, I don't know a single person that realized the value. I don't know one single person who realized the value of it in the early days. And people didn't talk about it that much. You know, you have a hobby and people think, well, you know, that's okay, and they don't do much about it, don't comment one way or another. But no, it was, however, one of the first people to give Charlie support was Ed Howard. Ed was the executive secretary of the Vandenberg Evansville Library at the time, and he came to Charlie's office on one occasion, and Charlie showed him his cards, and he couldn't believe it. It was a jaw-dropping type of situation, and he said, "This is a phenomenon," and he always said that thereafter. Charlie's work was a phenomenon because it was so immense and so widespread. And but after his files accumulated, and it did get bigger, people thought, well, what is this? And they began to look, and they began to see, and they began to understand. It took a while, but when they did come around, it was totally positive. And up to that time, I don't think it was negative. It was just that they wondered and they didn't understand, and what's its value, and a myriad of other questions. But people did come around and were very positive.
Can I ask one question? Has there ever been any kind of formal recognition of your accomplishments here locally?
Oh yes, he's been recognized with, he was awarded a category of Leadership Evansville. Now, he was not the number one recipient, but he was first in his category for community service. The Daughters of American Revolution that I belong to, they recognized him with it's not coming to me. It's a merit, very high merit. And he's been recognized by the Historical Society, the Indiana Historical Society, and the local Historical Society. And several publications. He's been publicized in the Indiana History, which is published, I think, bi-monthly. And several local type newspapers like the Message and other smaller types of newspapers in the area.
I'm sure we've got those clippings to...
Yes, and the Evansville paper, of course, has recognized him any number of times.
The editor, not Mr. McCall, wrote a large article on him, editorial column, but you could say that, not me.
Yes, Mr. McCullough wrote an article in the editorial page about Charlie, and it's not very often that an editor writes about a person on the editorial page, unless it's someone famous.
One thing about this work is we've been on the internet for quite a while now, and we're currently going to get 10 million hits. And that's more than anybody in the state of Indiana that I have heard of that gets that many hits on a machine or a thing that they put into the machinery in a period of a year. 10 million hits, that means your audience is building up.
Have there been any credits given in the Evansville area for this work?
The Daughters of American Revolution awarded him the Medal of Honor. It's a very nice medal that is presented for exceptional service. The Genealogical Society of Evansville and Indiana, and the Historical Society. The Historical Society gave him an award a few years ago, and they published an article about him in their publication. It's in their state publication and also their local publication. Their state publication is a rather nice book that comes out 6 times a year. And Leadership Evansville recognized him for community service. And the newspaper, Mr. McAuliffe, wrote an article about Charlie on the editorial page of the Evansville paper, which was highly complimentary. And smaller publications and magazines have also recognized him.
How has the computer age affected the 1,100,000 cards?
In the computer age, the 1 million cards were put in there by a photograph, so that you would photograph George Montgomery. I mean, you would type in George Montgomery, and he would, of course, been typed in at the same time his card was photographed in there, and his card would come up. And then it wouldn't be pieced down to where his children would all have a field, in these 15 fields on a card, even though they're on there. In the day of this age that we're in now, this computer age, of these main cards, they got in there under the top name. Now, that's what I did up till 1990. And then when the computer came into my building, the computer was put in, and entries no longer went to the 3x5 card system. They went to the computer, and it went in and under George Montgomery. Then it gave his 12, 15 credits, like his age in the obituary work, his age, date of death, where he lived, and where he died, and who his family was, and what his work was. And that's how it comes up today in the computer, which has been going on for 15 years. But prior to that was the card system, and when the computer came into the existence, then the card system was photographed onto there, but it didn't get the whole ability to pull that card up under all the 15 schemes in there. It would only pull it up under the name of the person, and then that would be on the screen, and you as an individual could press a couple numbers, and out would come a 8 by 11 sheet and giving it to you that way, or you could just sit there and read it and make the notes you wanted. Whereas the more recent time is, you get it up there, or you could get it up there by the man's sister. Now, a man's sister gets a different name, and so if his name was Montgomery, she wouldn't necessarily come up, except she'd come up on the main card. But then if her name became Smith, you could press the Smith and she would come up. So that's the beauty of this computer age. If it is ironed out and sophisticated enough to do all that, it'd be a triple beauty, even better than my simple system of going to the card, which is 2 or 3 maneuvers. But just sit at your computer and bring up George Smith or Henry Montgomery or whoever, here they come, and you get your study. If you're pursuing stuff in such as land of such as interest as genealogy, all these little things you could bring up and make a notebook of your own family or of your cousin's family in the printouts. So it's in there for a long time to come, so it may serve the city of Evansville and the territory for years to come.
Some genealogists have told me that 1 minute on your computer can sometimes be equivalent to 3 hours of their work in the past. How can you explain how the computer age has saved monumental amount of time for genealogists?
if they get into my